What are you thinking, Blake?
This is epic. I wasn't thinking it's gonna be this thick. It's at 5,000 pounds.
5,000 pounds.
Big rock.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I've seen these guys firsthand. I've had them crawling on me. When you're wearing shoes, they got their head, their paws inside your shoes looking for stuff. That's the curious nature of these incredible animals. So this is one that Blake was really drawn to. It's a giant slab, weighs over 2 tons. Kind of got a cupped out shape into it.
This is gonna be the moment of truth, though. This is right now. All right, it's all you, Tony. Hey, good morning everybody. Ed the Pond Professor here, back on site over at Blake's Exotic Animal Ranch, and we're getting challenges. Big unique projects like this always have some layer of complexity to them. I knew going into this we were going to have some challenges. One of them being space constraints. We have a fence on one side, we have the new building over here, and then we have a fence back over on this side, so that our only access point is kind of coming through this gate and then accessing from the front side. We do have an incredible piece of equipment here, Caterpillar 308 Mini X, super versatile, has a great breakout force as well as lifting capacity. So excavation wise, way overkill. We were able to dig this out relatively quickly. What we needed it for though is getting that bedrock stuff out. So down here at the bottom here, South Florida, you could get beautiful soil or you could get this coral layer. So once we started getting down deep, we started getting into this hard compacted layer, basically the old seabed. So what we have to do is we have to break through that. As soon as we started breaking through that, we had water bubbling up from the bottom, the shallow aquifer. I knew we were gonna hit water. Again, we've been here before, we have seen this, so we anticipated it. You can see from yesterday, the water has stabilized. It's not going up any higher than that. Once we have all of our infrastructure in place, the liner, the Aqua Blocks, all of our river rock, we're gonna have enough positive pressure pushing down that it will equalize and it will keep that water forced into the soil around it. That power of water is unbelievable. So you can see these teeth mark over here in that wall. That's from those teeth kind of just grinding into that ancient seabed to kind of chisel that stuff out. This is where our concrete panel is going to go. This is going to be that viewing window for the otters, which is going to be over in this direction. This one over here, the second one, is for our filtration system. Our pond products have not arrived. They got stuck in Atlanta because there was a winter storm that came through, kind of locked everything up, which we're not used to dealing with that. So our products are sitting in Atlanta right now. Tony and his team, Pondscape, unloading their truck, pulling everything out of here, making tons of room for us because we are going to send this vehicle over to the other side of the state to Driftwood Nursery to get some of the pond equipment to keep us moving today. Otherwise, I'm going to be waiting. I'm going to be stuck waiting for that material coming from Atlanta, which I don't even know when that's going to arrive. We are fine-tuning the excavation. We got pretty close yesterday. Tony was able to scrape some of this out down to the right elevation over here. And what I like about this type of a design is we're going to have those aqua blocks down on the bottom. We're going to have river rock on top of that. All the sediments are going to stay down here really, really deep. So if the animals are digging around or rooting around in that gravel bed, there's really nothing for them to have access to. They're not going to be able to access that sedimentation zone. So the challenge that we're having, we just got to keep the water out of here until we can get some weight on it. We are putting in our first layer of heavy-duty geotextile. This is going to help stabilize the soil, create a good soft barrier to cover up all that compacted stone that was on the bottom. So that's going to be good for our liner. Then we're going to put the rubber membrane in place, which holds the water, and then another layer of this material on top, which is going to help protect it from large boulders. We're getting a bunch of small cobblestones to go around the snorkel and centipede, which is going to be located here. That unit, the snorkel centipede, this piece right here,
This is only about a foot wide. So that trench that we dug is about 2.5 feet. So we're gonna have 18 inches of that rubble to go on either side of it. So the centipede modular piece, we could snap multiples together to increase the filtration. Right over here, this is where the water is gonna come in. The rubber connector right here, flat bottom on it, as well as there's no slots. You see the slots right there? These slots are up off of the bottom. We want all the big sediments to stay in this trough down here in the bottom. So it's nice and flat, wide. That's gonna be the first point of the sedimentation process. On top of this, we're gonna have our layer of Aqua Blocks. This is gonna connect directly up to the snorkel over here. This is going to allow us access for cleaning. Aqua Blocks over here, incredibly modular system, can handle heavy loads. We're going to be having all of our river rock on top of this. The river rock is actually responsible for the filtration. This is the sedimentation as well as water distribution system. The other thing that's going to happen is every square millimeter of all these surfaces will become home to living microorganisms, crustaceans, all types of microscopic life, which is responsible for the degradation of organic compounds in the filter. Here's our first load of stone. We got some of these flat guys. Remember, Blake was picking out these to cover up some of the running areas or some of the play areas for the otters. We're gonna cover everything up with some of these flatter stones. This stuff is gonna go down in the bottom. This is gonna be that base for our wetland filter. Some of these flat ones, these are gonna be for a series of steps, as well as some of the edging work that's gonna be around the upper perimeter. I think this one here may have been either a waterfall stone or it could have been one of the rocks that we picked out for a bench. So that's going to be used down in that seating area. Then these are just some random smaller medium stone, I should say. Next thing that I'm waiting for is that precast concrete panel. I want to get that installed and concrete poured around the base of it to stabilize it so it'll be set for mounting that glass panel in place. So Aqua Blocks are in, snorkel centipede right down the center. We will have another layer of Aqua Blocks going over here. We can't install those until that concrete panel is on site. Those are nice and level, piping is hooked up. We just filled around it with some of this local stone, but the main area of filtration is going to be right over those Aqua Blocks. We're going to cover that up with a larger, I should say a small cobblestone, large river rock. You've seen us do this before. We're going to have layers. This particular one is not as deep of a wetland. We're only about 18 inches, so we're only going to have 2 layers. We're going to come in with a layer of this cobblestone, cover up the blocks, and then we're going to come in with the 1 to 3 inch on top of that. Precast concrete panel has arrived. This is the viewing panel for the otters. Because of the size as well as weight of this panel, 5,000 pounds, we're bringing in the Cat 308. We got these lifting hooks over here. We're gonna lift up that panel, bring it over into position. Right behind this delivery is our next delivery of boulders. What are you thinking, Blake?
This is epic. I wasn't thinking it's gonna be this thick. It said 5,000 pounds?
5,000 pounds.
Big rock.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So this is the moment we've been waiting for. This is the main feature for the otter pond. We have to lift this up, position it down here where the seating area is going to be. Then we're going to re-strap it from the top, pull it forward, swing it over into position, drop it down, stabilize it, make sure everything is lined up with the buildings so Blake can finish off all the other stuff because he's got a ton of work to do once we're done with our part. But we have to make sure that everything's lined up as much as possible. This is going to be the moment of truth, though. This is right now.
We are moving along. It is positioned. It is level. We are now coming in. We locked it in place with a few big boulders to keep it from swinging around. Tony's still holding pressure on it, tension on the one end. We're getting concrete, we're putting that underneath, as well as a bunch of big pieces of slate. We also have a few big rocks that we're going to be putting, as well as act as those benches. The wetland is about done. We kind of left the gravel a little bit higher here in the middle. That's because I got some big boulders coming along here in the back, so I want to set those seated down into the wetland a little bit, and then I'm going to bring that gravel up into it, which will really lock everything in place. The guys over here are preparing the area for the seating area. We've cleaned out the bottom, leveled it. We're coming in with the geotextile fabric. The reason being, this is South Florida. We get heavy rains. This low area will undoubtedly become a swimming pool during those rain events. So what we don't want to have happen is this just to turn to mush. So by having that fabric in place, it's going to create a barrier in between the gravel, decorative gravel layer, and the subsoil.
Our glass just arrived, as well as the mounting brackets, which are being painted as we speak. I had them primed, but now we're doing a rubberized paint over them to make sure they stay waterproof for the long term. So remember what the idea for this whole thing is. We want an interactive system for the otters, for Ollie and Callie. This is going to be a deep water pool that's going to engage their senses in a specific way. This is going to be more that naturalistic hunting type of an engagement. Blake is talking about putting in crawfish, mollusks, and crayfish and things like that inside of here, where those animals can actually swim around and look in all the little nooks and crannies. I've seen these guys firsthand. I've had them crawling on me. When you're wearing shoes, they got their head, their paws inside your shoes looking for stuff. That's the curious nature of these incredible animals. So we're trying to have all of those little things here. I don't want to just have rock. We have big caves and pockets for them. We're also going to add in some stumps and logs, and that's because these animals not only are incredible swimmers, but they're also very agile. They're going to be climbing all over these logs and stumps. They're almost cat-like. They could jump off and play in this deep water zone. The other thing we're doing, back over on this side, we're getting ready for a large boulder to be strapped up. Let's take a walk over here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the big rock over in the background that they're currently strapping is that custom stone that Blake, Kenya, and I picked out in Alabama. So this is one that Blake was really drawn to. It's a giant slab, weighs over 2 tons, kind of got a cupped out shape into it. The idea with this is we're going to take some of the water from our SLD pumps, we're going to distribute water into our wetland filter, but we're also trying to create these little fun things for these animals. I'm going to take a portion of that water and I'm going to have it spill across the surface of that stone. Because of the natural shape, it should create like a little shallow play area, and it's going to have a couple waterfalls coming off it, which are going to go back down into the Aqua Blocks. So this is all part of the filtration system, recirculation, but it's also fun. So for these animals, it's going to be functional as well as fun and aesthetic. So we're trying to blend all these disciplines together, which is the beauty of everything that we do. We're pushing this machine to the max. I oversized the machine with a 308 cat, but because of the distance and the weight of this rock, 4,200 pounds, this rock weighs more than most cars that are on the road right now. So we are pushing the limit, not only of the machine, but also these Aqua Blocks. Remember that test we did back at the office? We had that big stack of boulders, over 6,000 pounds on one Aqua Block. Thankfully, we're spreading this load out over multiple, so I know the Aqua Blocks are gonna handle it, but bouncing it like that ain't good.
It's not a trampoline.
right, we're getting ready for one of those critical operations now on the project. So we have our concrete panel in place, which we set a week ago. Now we're getting everything prepared to seal the liner up to the concrete. So tomorrow we're gonna be doing the glass and everything, but what I wanna do is try to get a little bit ahead of the game. This is gonna be the most critical piece. So we have a large piece of steel, custom-made steel I've had it made before. We did it for Coral Fish 12G. We also did it for the koi window at Aqualand with this exact same design. So it works very, very well. So what I'm doing, just cleaning everything off because we're gonna have a silicone seal between the concrete and the liner. You can see I got a series of dashed lines on here. Those are in place to line up where the concrete anchors are gonna go. So I'm gonna do a silicone seal all the way across that area, then come in with our steel angle iron, hold it in position at the right elevation, concrete anchors. We're gonna bolt directly into the concrete at those appropriate locations. So that's what we're working on. We have multiple people holding things in place. The liner, the silicone, the steel plate, all these little pieces add up to make sure that this is a successful installation, which is exactly what we gotta do.